A woman sells her wares in a marketplace. She is a merchant, and she is trading goods, as is her daily work. Her spiritual teacher comes to her booth and asks her a single question. Have you looked at the sky today? And she looks up for the first time at the vast blue skyscape and remembers that she is made for something more than trading in the marketplace. This Easter, as we roll away the stone of our quarantine entombment, do we remember to look at the sky? Rabbi Ariel Berger, a student of the great Jewish teacher Elie Wiesel, tells us, you receive consciousness from looking at the sky. It reminds you that the world is big, and that gives an important perspective if I'm worrying or preoccupied with something small. Looking at the sky allows us to go deeper and to reach higher. Well, this is a moment for us to become like the flowers in our gardens, to go deeper and reach higher. Welcome to what I believe is the new phase of the pandemic, the phase I will call our resurrection. It is as though we have walked all the stations of the cross, making our own pilgrimage alongside Jesus in his final days, through the betrayal of our government and leaders who failed to protect us. Then the sudden loss of all we knew as holy and sacred. Then the torturous suffering of daily grief and fear and physical trial. Then bargaining, begging for relief. And then, for some of us, death. For others, it was the death of a life we once knew. Just yesterday, in the New York Times, an article titled, "We Have All Hit a Wall." A psychologist suggested a new term for what many of us are feeling lately: behavioral anhedonia. According to Dr. Margaret Warenberg, when people are under a long period of chronic, unpredictable stress, they develop behavioral anhedonia, meaning the loss of the ability to take pleasure in their activities. And so they become lethargic and show a lack of interest. Have you hit a wall? Have you hit a wall? On that Easter morning in Mark 16, when the women find Jesus' tomb empty, they flee in terror and amazement, which is where many of us now find ourselves, amazed that we are alive at all, terrified, terrorized even to reemerge. You know, it was only a few short weeks of some kind of energy that felt akin to normal until the mass shootings began again. It's enough to make you want to crawl back into the cave. But ready or not, Easter is here. Finally, we are rolling away the stone of our quarantine tomb, shielding our eyes from that bright sun and returning, but not in the form we once held. No. Reverend Dr. Esau Macaulay reminds us why that tomb must exist at all. He writes, "We know what to do with grief and despair. We have a place for it. We have rituals that surround it." He writes, "I know how to look around at the anti-Black racism, the anti-Asian racism, the struggle of families at our border, and feel despair. I know what it is like to watch the body count rise after a mass shooting, only to have the country collectively shrug because we are too addicted to our guns and our violence. Reverend Macaulay writes, "I put it all in the tomb that contains my dead hopes and dreams for what the country could be. I am left only with tears." And so we need this tomb. We need a place to put our grief and our anguish as we watched George Floyd's horrific murder all over again this Holy Week, as we continue to hear of anti-Asian hate and violence wreaking havoc in our society. But as we step out from that tomb, from the bleakest year some of us have ever known, the dark night of our individual and collective soul, we must face the truth. This is not a return to an earlier form, no. This is a time of renewal, of resurrection into a new life, a new being, a new and different world. So, how can we look at the sky and remember what we were made for? Say this isn't the end. This is our resurrection. This is the time for revolution, shaking the foundations of the society we left behind a year ago. We have now been thrown like seed and into our own field, and like the seed, we were almost forgotten, almost left for dead, but life begins again. And so we must prepare to bloom. Many of you have spent this pandemic year in your garden, perhaps like every other year, but this time with special attention, vigor. I have heard the pride in your voice as you share with me the small celebrations and setbacks of a garden, the way you delight at the blossoms, many of you marveling. Somehow this year, you can't remember the last time you saw such beauty as we see this year. It is a total shock all over again, and we forget we saw it just this way 1 year ago. This careful, daily devotion is how we grow new life, both in our world and within us. This is the tiny revolution we are called to join, to create something beautiful in our world. And like any good gardener, I want to prepare you. This will not be easy. Our re-emergence from the tomb, this is not a return to normal, make no mistake. This will be weird. We won't remember how to do small talk. We will forget how to make eye contact or how to ask each other simple questions after all we have endured. But this is not the end. This is a new beginning. May we cultivate this new world like we do our gardens, tending to the vulnerable plants, nourishing the soil, planting our root with intention, and trying each and every day to make the world a little more beautiful in our own unique way. This is how we resurrect the world. We heal. We evolve. We reach to the sky so as to reemerge into our lives and remember finally what it is we were made for. May it be so. Amen.